Have you ever noticed how your mind waits for the perfect moment to act? When you'll feel confident enough, calm enough, motivated enough. But life doesn't pause while you wait. Burnout, rejection, self-doubt, overthinking, they don't disappear just because you don't feel ready. And this is where most people get stuck. Because the truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Discipline is doing it anyway. Not when it feels easy. Not when the emotions are settled. But when your mind is tired, your heart is heavy, and part of you wants to give up. Have you ever caught yourself thinking this way? When motivation disappears, it often feels personal, like something is wrong with you. You wake up tired, your mind already heavy, and the energy you hoped would show up just doesn't. That's when overthinking begins. You start questioning your ability, your direction, even your worth. But motivation was never meant to be permanent. It's emotional, reactive, and fragile. Discipline steps in where motivation cannot. It doesn't ask how you feel, it asks what matters. When you act despite low energy or doubt, you break the cycle of waiting. You move forward without forcing happiness or pretending strength. This is where real stability forms, not from bursts of inspiration, but from quiet consistency. Over time, this creates relief. The pressure to feel ready disappears, and with it, much of the anxiety tied to performance and self-judgment. Every time you tell yourself you'll do something and don't follow through, something subtle happens inside. You may not notice it immediately, but trust in yourself weakens. Confidence doesn't collapse loudly, it erodes silently. Discipline repairs this damage. Not through big wins, but through small promises kept. When you show up for yourself, even imperfectly, your inner dialogue changes. You stop doubting your reliability. Self-respect grows because it's earned, not imagined. This kind of discipline isn't harsh or punishing, it's protective. It creates emotional safety. Your mind learns that effort doesn't depend on mood, and your heart learns that you won't abandon yourself when things feel difficult. Emotional pain has a way of convincing you that stopping is the safest option. When someone you trusted disappoints you, or when rejection lands deeper than expected, the instinct is to pull away from effort altogether. You tell yourself you'll move again once the pain fades. But healing doesn't work on pause. Discipline during emotional pain isn't about pushing harder, it's about staying gently present. It's continuing healthy routines, protecting boundaries, and honoring responsibilities without demanding emotional perfection from yourself. This kind of discipline allows space for grief and reflection while preventing emotional collapse. You don't deny the pain, and you don't let it dictate your behavior. Over time, this steadiness rebuilds inner balance. The mind settles, the nervous system calms, and healing becomes something you participate in rather than wait for. At work, the pain often looks quieter but cuts just as deeply. You put in effort, stay consistent, and still feel unseen. Recognition doesn't come. Progress feels slow. Doubt creeps in, whispering that maybe your work doesn't matter. Discipline protects you here. When you anchor your effort to integrity instead of approval, you reclaim control. You focus on what's within reach, preparation, follow-through, professionalism, instead of chasing validation. This creates emotional stability in high-pressure environments. Even when outcomes are delayed, your sense of dignity stays intact. Discipline turns work into a reflection of character rather than a measure of worth, reducing stress and preserving self-respect even in uncertain situations. Many people misunderstand discipline because they've only seen it modeled as pressure, pushing harder, ignoring limits, forcing results. That version of discipline feels aggressive, and over time it leads to burnout. True discipline is quieter. It's not about domination, it's about direction. It doesn't shout at you to keep going, it reminds you why you started. Healthy discipline adjusts to your capacity without abandoning the path. It allows rest without quitting and effort without self-criticism. When discipline is grounded in self-respect, it becomes sustainable. You stop swinging between extremes of intensity and exhaustion. Instead, you move steadily, even on difficult days. This approach protects your emotional health because it removes the fear that effort will cost you your well-being. Discipline becomes a stabilizing force, not a threat. Inner peace often feels distant when life lacks structure. When decisions are made emotionally, the mind stays busy, replaying options, regrets, and what-ifs. Overthinking thrives in this uncertainty. Discipline reduces this noise. It simplifies life by limiting unnecessary choices. You don't debate whether to show up, you already decided. You don't negotiate with distractions, you have a plan. This clarity creates mental space. Stress eases because your brain no longer has to solve the same problems repeatedly. Over time, routines become anchors. They signal safety to the nervous system. The mind learns that not everything needs to be reconsidered daily. With fewer internal arguments, emotional energy is preserved. Peace doesn't arrive suddenly, it builds quietly through repeated, disciplined choices that bring order where chaos once lived. When progress feels slow and outcomes remain uncertain, doubt naturally appears. You start wondering whether your effort matters or if you're moving in the right direction at all. This is where discipline becomes an act of trust. Not blind optimism, but steady belief that consistency carries wisdom you can't yet see. Discipline asks you to keep showing up without demanding immediate proof. It teaches patience, the kind that strengthens character rather than weakening resolve. When you act with this mindset, effort feels calmer. You stop chasing reassurance and start honoring the process itself. This creates emotional stability because your sense of purpose is no longer tied to instant results. Over time, resilience grows. You develop humility, knowing that growth unfolds in layers, and confidence, knowing that steady effort aligns you with something deeper than short-term reward. Setbacks often trigger harsh self-judgment. You miss a day, make a mistake, or fall back into an old pattern, and the mind rushes to label it as failure. Many people quit here, not because they can't continue, but because they believe the slip disqualifies them. Discipline reframes this moment. It doesn't demand perfection, it values return. Instead of dramatizing the setback, discipline treats it as information, not identity. You observe, adjust, and resume. This removes shame from the process. The nervous system stays regulated because the threat of self-attack disappears. Momentum becomes easier to regain when mistakes are not magnified. Over time, this approach builds emotional maturity. You learn that strength isn't proven by never falling, but by how calmly and consistently you stand back up. Let's return to the truth we started with. Discipline is doing it anyway. When emotions fluctuate. When motivation fades. When healing feels slow. This is how emotional healing deepens. This is how stress relief becomes sustainable. This is how inner peace is built, not imagined. You don't need to feel ready. You need to stay present. Discipline is doing it anyway. Share your thoughts below. How are you choosing consistency in your healing today? You're not behind. You're becoming.